Hello, this is a video key for today's desmos to help you understand the answers if you get stuck or you were confused at all. The first question asks, what is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable? The independent variable is the depth. The temperature is our dependent because it changes at different amounts depending on the depth. So the temperature of the water depends on the depth. So once again, our independent is our depth, and our dependent is our temperature. So remember, our independent variable always goes on our x-axis, and our dependent variable will typically go on our y-axis. Here, you need to construct a scatter plot. So just in case you get stuck on how to do this, you are going to hit the plus icon in the corner to add the table. So your plus icon, table, everything you put in this column will go on the x-axis, and everything you put in this column will go on the y-axis. Once you've entered your points, your scatter plot should look something like this. Describe the relationship shown in the scatter plot. In particular, as the ocean temperature increases, as the ocean depth increases, what happens to the water temperature? We can't see the x-axis here, but remember, this is signifying our ocean depth. So as I look at this, as the ocean depth increases, I notice that the water temperature decreases. It starts off close to 80 degrees, and as I increase my depth, the temperature falls. Compare the two scatter plots. What do you notice about the two scatter plots? In particular, how are they similar and how are they different? When I look and see that they are similar, I might say that they both make straight lines. If I wanted to use more precise mathematical language, I would say that they both have a linear correlation. When I look at how they are different, I notice that this red scatter plot, its line looks like it's going up. And once again, a more mathematically correct way to say that would be it has a positive association or an increase. Whereas when I look at the orange scatter plot, it looks like it's going down. Which again, to be more mathematically correct, this line, if I would make a line there, would have a negative slope. So it would have a negative association. You might also call it a negative correlation. Describe the association. Describe the association of the points in the scatter plot. Again, you want to use these precise languages. When I look at this diagram in the scatter plot, it looks like all of my points in my scatter plot follow this pattern, and that pattern looks like a line. So I would say that there is a linear association. Again, you could say correlation as well. If I wanted to be more specific, I could say it is a negative linear association. And this is because as I increase on the x-axis, my y value decreases. Or again, it looks like I have that negative slope when I make that imaginary line for the pattern. In the scatter plot, a point that is far away from the rest of the data is called an outlier. Circle any outliers you see in the scatter plot, and then explain why you selected those. You should have selected these two points. I selected these because the definition of an outlier is that it's far away from the rest. So I selected these points because they are far away from the other points. And they don't really follow the linear association we see. In other words, they don't really follow the pattern that we see. Your graph could look a lot of different ways. This is just one example of what it might look like. So if I look, I see this pattern, this arc. So I have some sort of association, but it is not linear. It does not have a line. These 2 points that are a far distance away from the rest, those are my outliers. So this is different from no association because in no association, there is no pattern, so to speak, that would fit. Cross-country team, weight versus height. Consider the scatter plot shown below. What is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable? Are there any points that you find surprising? Explain. So remember, my independent variable is what I would see on my x-axis and is my input. So as I look, I see weight of the runners on the y-axis, but this isn't labeled for my x-axis. So that would mean it would have to be height. My dependent variable is again on my y-axis and is considered the output of my function. In this case, what's on my y-axis is the weight of the runner. Is the association shown in the scatter plot positive or negative? Would a linear function be a good model for this data? In each case, explain your thinking. So remember, when I see a positive association, that generally means it goes up. Or as I increase on my x, I also increase the value on my y. Whereas a negative association would be that going down. So if I look at this, I see a positive association because as I increase on my x, my y value also increases. So I have a positive association. You might also call this a correlation. Next it says, would a linear function be a good model for this data? If I look, the pattern looks like almost a straight line. I can imagine a line going through there. So yes, this would be a linear function to model this.